We're rolling? We're rolling.
Oh, we are rolling.
Well, hello and welcome to the Living Your Best Life podcast.
I have to laugh. You guys don't see this, but every single time he says it, he looks back at the TV that says it, like, because he cannot remember it.
I cannot remember it. And I am, I think I'm I am a person who likes to study and I like to learn. I read dozens of books a year. I don't say this arrogantly. I'm just saying I read a lot. But I cannot tell you the title of the books I'm reading. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you the authors. I can't tell you. Right. I cannot memorize things. I was literally a pastor who memorized like 3 verses. You know, kids from Bible school knew way more verses than I did.
You knew John 3:16 and that was it.
Mm-hmm. And kind of. And so, for me though, what it was, I did know. I don't mean to imply that I didn't know the Bible, but I couldn't tell you where things were. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know that. Mm-hmm. So, and it's the same thing. I look at books and I go, I don't remember that book at all. And then I start reading some of it. I go, oh yeah, that's this and that and the other. So I can remember a lot of things. But I'm
really bad about that too, actually. Peter can remember every single song title, what album it was on, what year it was, and I'm just like, it was somewhere in my high school years that I remember that album.
Exactly. You know? I can't remember years. Yeah. I mean, it's seriously, unless it was a very, very big year, I can't remember a single year. But you know what we have not done is we haven't said thank you for coming and listening to our
listening to us babble
and our podcast. This is a podcast. I'm Benny, by the way.
I'm Valerie.
And we are the Brother and Sister podcast, which technically does not have a name, but I think we've really settled on living your best life because
I think it kind of just sums it up, right?
Yeah, it does sum it up. And so I've noticed that, you know, some of our podcasts in the past, we say, well, and we're still discovering our name. And I think we just have to settle on the fact this is our name.
Yeah. It's funny because I look at some of the podcasts and I see they're cute and catchy names and I'm like, oh, we should have thought of that. We should have thought. But at the end of the day, I really feel like I know it's a cliche, but I think it just sums up what we really want for this podcast is for people to live their best life.
It's true. I think that's true. And so, we want to thank Iggy.
Yes.
Hello, Iggy.
Hello.
So
he's a man of a few words.
Yes, a man of few words. And so but he keeps the sound in check and he does the best job that he possibly can under the circumstances because we are not in a soundproof room. So if you wonder why I eat my microphone, it's because if I don't, it sounds like a little echo. So that's why we stay like that. But at any rate... and
the reason that you might wonder if he eats the microphone, because if you're listening to it, you wouldn't know that.
No, that's right.
But we are on YouTube as well. So
that's
sometimes, you know, you can see us if you want to.
If you want to. Yeah. So very pleasant to look at.
But anyway, how are you? It's been a while.
I'm actually doing very well. For the listener, we haven't recorded any in a couple of weeks for various reasons. And so I think the last time I was on break for school and now I'm back in school and I'm really trying to attack things. Normally the way online school works, at least the one I do, is everything's per week. Yeah. So everything is scheduled per week. It's all mapped out like that. And I've always basically just done that, done the weekly thing. And then what I find myself in some circumstances when all of a sudden I have big papers. Now, granted, I do try and plan out some of those big papers, but it's there's other things that you have to do. So all of a sudden I'm still doing the other things on the paper. So what I'm doing right now is I'm only toward the end of week 1 and I'm nearly done with week 2 stuff. And so I'm trying to get way ahead so that I'm not stuck. So I feel actually good about that.
That's good.
Because otherwise I get, I still get fussy. I have to admit, I got fussy at Patty the other day. She let me know. Sorry, babe. Yeah, because I realize I sometimes don't.
She already told me, so. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
she Facebooked it. But I realized something, and I do really well under stressful situations like at work, and different things like that. And I can really handle those situations typically pretty well. What's interesting is if I'm feeling some kind of stress and the people I love the most are around me, I just bark. I'm like, whatever it is, I just kind of, it's literally like our dog, you know, you walk in the room and then he just barks. He doesn't care. And then he chills out. And I feel like the same way. I bark and then I chill out. The problem is the bark hurt, you know, and was offensive. And I kind of think everything's cool.
Yeah. I just barked. Because I didn't bite.
So anyway.
No, it's funny you said that because every Friday I get home from work, I frantically clean my house and
because it's been like 12 hours since you cleaned it, right?
But I mean, my house doesn't get dirty. We don't have anybody there, but I do all the deep cleaning on Fridays after work because I don't want to do it on Saturday and Sunday. And the reason I'm bringing this up because you brought up like the stress of, okay, I'll tell you why I'm bringing it up. Because I was cleaning it today and I was, you know, why do I do this to myself? Why can't I just do this on Thursday or wake up Saturday morning after the gym and do it? And I was like, because I work better under pressure, I realized. And so even if it's to the last minute and I'm like, oh my God, I got to go before I come over here. If I just have all the time in the world to do it, I don't get it done quickly enough. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I really do work better under pressure. Same thing with like packing. Like when I always notice that like I try to like, I'm going to start packing here. So I'm not at the last minute doing things, but it's like, no, once I realize it's down to the wire, I'm
so here's the thing that I'm going to say that cause I agree with you that, this is not even the subject matter, but we're bringing something up that I think is interesting. I think it's interesting that like, for instance, I told you about these papers. I tell myself a week beforehand, I'm getting this done now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
And I have everything I need. I start, I get a paragraph and then I'm thinking about other things that I might need to do.
Because you have all that time, right?
And I have all this time. And then all of a sudden it's Saturday.
Yeah.
It's due Sunday. And I write 2 papers in a weekend.
Yeah.
Not necessarily my best work, but I get them done. I get it done and I could focus.
See, that's interesting because I feel like I get my better work done when it's under pressure. If I'm doing it for 2 weeks, I feel like, I don't know.
But see, here's the thing.
Like my mind works better.
I think that there's one thing that when you're, I think for me, I get better work done when it's a cerebral thing. But I think when you have when you're pressured to do something for
that's
physically,
true.
then it's like, well, you could get that done because you can just go for it. There's really not a whole lot of thought to it. But I will say, I think that's the thing is that I have so much time to make the paper perfect that I spend it and I keep thinking about it. And I really just need to say, this has to be done today.
Yeah.
And then if I did that, then I could look at it a week later with fresh eyes and actually make it a much better paper.
True. Yeah.
And so, but it is interesting because I'm not sure for me at least that I actually do work better under pressure. I think it's just that I don't want to fail. I have to get it done.
I will make a list and think, because I still have a week to do whatever, or 2 weeks or whatever it is. And I will make a list. And because I like to check off my lists, I will just move that thing since I didn't do it because I know I have. To the next day? Yes. Because I like to see the check marks and then I'm like, okay, I didn't do that, so I'm not going to leave it unchecked. I take it off and then I move it to the next day.
Mom seriously must have done this because I do the exact same thing. It's like, I'm not going to have an unchecked thing.
Exactly.
I've got to actually move it to the next day. It wasn't meant to be done today. It's got to be done. But do you remember when I grew up that I used to write notes to myself?
Yes. And he would sign his name. Benny, don't forget your lunch is in the refrigerator. Benny.
I would actually say that. I'd say,
my gosh.
I'd say, Benny, don't forget to take your whatever to school. Take your, whatever. Don't forget to take your project to school. Yeah. Signed,
Benny.
Love, Benny. Sincerely, your friend.
But and just speaking of lists, this is off the topic of like the last minute, under pressure worker. I still like to handwrite my lists. I don't use like all the technology things and stuff, but
all the technology things like a computer.
Well, I guess I do.
I don't use all the technology things.
I guess I do use my notes in my phone sometimes, but if I write a grocery list and I don't like how I don't like my penmanship, I will write it over.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
Is that crazy? Or yes. I'm at school and I'm like, ooh, I take a Post-it off the desk and start writing, don't forget this, don't forget that. And then I'm like, oh God, that's so messy. I grab another Post-it and I'm like,
So in my day, what I would have done is I would have taken a Post-it and I would have said, write a new Post-it.
Love Benny.
Love Benny. Seriously, I was, yeah, I remember that. So anyway, well, other than that, I am doing really well. School is going well so far. I also, side note, actually, I don't know if it's side or, I guess everything we do is side note.
I guess it is, yeah.
So, I also got an internship. So I have to have an internship for January, and so I got one and I'm working through that process. So I've been trying to get one for weeks and people weren't responding. And finally I got one and then I got rejected by one today.
Well, at least you got one.
Yeah, it was weird because I didn't expect I didn't expect to get it in the sense that it was so last minute. So I asked these people ages ago, they never responded at all. So I finally accepted the other one. And then all of a sudden, literally the day I accepted it, I get an email saying, are you still interested? And then I responded with yes. And then 2 days later, he responded again. And then we called and we chatted. And then I told him, I said, but I'm under the gun because I have to know by Monday, if this is even worth pursuing, that kind of a thing. And he said, well, we already have 2 interns, which made me think, why did you contact me in the first place? And then he said, what else did he say? But I guess the long story short is he said, this is normally a 2-week process and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't mind that there's a process, but I do have to submit a bunch of information by Monday. And so then they sent me, sorry, it's not going to work out. Note, which I just
you weren't supposed to have that one then.
That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
So I do have one. So I'm grateful for what I do have. And I'm looking forward to the fact that, this is just one big step. So I know it doesn't start by the time you guys hear this, it might be just a few weeks actually. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next stage.
Good.
You?
Well, I'm doing good. I just got back from another cruise.
I know. That's crazy.
I know. Yeah, you want to get into that?
I think so. I think maybe what we can do is say on October, what's
the 13th?
On October 11th, one of our podcasts dropped on
yes, on disappointment.
On disappointment. And so this is interesting.
Yes.
That we're here.
So it's funny because you're right. If you haven't heard it, listen to it. It's actually a pretty good one. It's an episode
damn good one. What do you mean a pretty good one? I'm kidding.
It is episode 12 to be exact. And it deals with disappointment, which ironically, the disappointment happened to be about a cruise for both of us. I mean, we elaborated on other things, but the 2 things that we brought up were about a cruise. So, for those of you that don't know, I'll say it really quickly. My daughter Kylie performs on the Disney Cruise Line, and I decided we both took a trip over the summer. And if you listen to episode 12 podcast, you will get the details on that. But I decided to surprise her with another cruise when she came back to the States. So they did their transatlantic crossover. Yeah. Which took, I think, 11 days or whatever. Now, all of the cruises that they do from here until December 16th are from the States. So they are in New York and they're going to do their cruises over there. And then they come back down in November and they'll be in Florida doing their cruises from there. So I decided to take a cruise and surprise her, which I totally, with her friend, Matthew, we were able to put this whole surprise together. And I flew to New York, got on the cruise that day, because I did the red eye, and the surprise was phenomenal. Like, I think I sent you guys a video, right?
I saw it on Instagram. Yeah. It was really fun.
And she was just dumbfounded. Like, it took her, even after that video that he videotaped the surprise of, she just stared at me still like, wait, you're taking the cruise? Like, she just couldn't believe I was there. So it was just awesome that we were able to surprise her and stuff. That said, that very moment that she saw me, she goes, well, I guess I'm not going to medical. And I'm like, what does that mean? And she goes, well, I woke up with a little bit of a sore throat and I just wanted to make sure that I nipped it in the bud, because last time she got sick on the cruise, it turned into I believe strep. I can't remember if that's what it was, but it got pretty bad. So she's like, I don't want that to happen again. So she's like, it's not that bad. It's just a little bit. I was going to have it checked out, but I'm not going because if they do in fact say you have to be, rest, then I won't be able to do the show tonight and blah, blah, blah. So, okay, we move on. She did her show and then that was Tuesday. Wednesday, she did her show, not feeling great. And she's starting to not feel good. It's just not her throat. She's starting to not feel well. So now we're fast forwarding to Thursday, which is our day in Bermuda. And I text her in the morning, say, what time can you get off the ship? She gets off at a different time than we can get off. And she's like, I don't know yet, but I'm just letting you know, I'm not feeling that great. I'm not sure how long I want to be out and about. And I said, I get it, sweetie. Don't even worry. Maybe you shouldn't go. She goes, no. I want to go. I want to go. Well, I can't tell by that how bad she's feeling, but I'm just like, okay, let's go. And so as soon as I see her, I can tell in her eyes, she does not feel good. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, babe, are you sure you want to do this? She goes, yes, I promise I want to go. Let's just go walk around a little. And I'm like, okay. So we start to walk around a little and she goes, but you know what I do want to do? Because 2 of her cast members had COVID. So she's like, I want to go to the pharmacy up here. I know there's one because my friend Matthew got cold medicine there one day and see if I can get a COVID test and take one just so that I'm prepared if it is COVID. I'm not going to be like shocked when medical does one. And I go, because she knew she wanted to end up going to medical to get medicine. So
sure.
I said, okay, let's go. So that was the first thing we did as soon as we got off the ship. And so I felt like we were drug addicts or something because we get it. She goes, well, I can't do it in front of people. So we go behind the building and we're like in this little alley. And I'm like, oh my God, if anybody sees us, But so sure enough, she takes this test and it turns out positive.
Oh gosh.
And so she just starts bawling. And I'm thinking, oh my God, are you not feeling that good? Like I was just like, babe, what? And she goes, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. They're going to quarantine me. You're going to have 3 days of blah, 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 blah. And I go, babe, it's okay. It's okay.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And I'm dying inside though. I just wanted to be, strong mama for her. Inside, I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm not going to see her for I'm going to be on this cruise by myself. Nobody went with me. I went by myself. It wasn't even like Peter and I could go off and do whatever.
Right.
So she goes back to the ship. She's like, I got to go back on the ship and just rest. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. And I walked back with her. I was going to go back with her. She's like, are you going to come back? I'm like, yeah. Like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'll go walk around Bermuda by myself. So that's what I did. And she doesn't know this. And I'm going to share this with you guys. And if she listens to us, she'll know it now. It's not that big of a deal. But I was literally, I'm going to start crying right now. But I was literally walking around by myself and like tears were just coming out. I'm going to start crying because I was just like, I was so sad for her because she was so sad.
Sure.
It wasn't even me because I was like, I was sad that I wasn't going to be able to hang out with her. I couldn't even say, okay, come hang out in my room because if it was COVID, she had to be in her room the whole time. They bring her food and set it by her door. And then they tell her the food's there and then she can open her door, grab it and go back in her room. But, so I walked around. The weather wasn't that great. It was really windy. So I'm like, whatever. But I saw Glass Beach. I saw this. It was beautiful. And I'm okay being by myself. So I was fine. But I go back to the ship and I've already been exposed to her and she hasn't been off limits to see. So I said, can you come to my room and we'll order room service or something? And she goes, yeah, that's fine. I slept all day. I'm actually feeling okay. I'm like, okay. So that night she comes to my room. We order room service. We watch movies that Peter downloaded to his laptop. And I was just like watching Friends and whatever we were watching. And then she went back to her room to sleep. The next morning I go up, have my coffee. I'm up on the deck and I get this text like at 8:30 in the morning, mommy, with all these exclamation marks. And I'm like, what? And she goes, it says it's negative. And I'm like, she went to medical. And I was like, the COVID test was negative? She goes, yeah. And she was even honest with them about like, she had one that wasn't, and that, so they're like, no, it's negative. I mean, it's not negative. I'm sorry.
It is negative.
It is negative. You do not have COVID. And her line when we saw it outside seemed a little faint, but it does say even a faint line is positive.
A faint line is positive,
so I was like, okay, well, did she have it or is that a false positive or is she already negative? Like, I don't know. But, and then so she starts bawling in there before the test, she starts bawling in the medical room and the woman's like, you're going to be okay, honey. We'll get you all ready. You'll be fine. She goes, no, but my mom's here. And if it's positive, then I'm stuck in my room for 3 days. And they're like, oh, okay. So it was negative. And so she's like, they gave her some cold medicine. She goes, you have a cold, you know? So so the bummer was because she did go to medical and they signed her off from the show because she couldn't sing. Her throat hurt. And so when they signed her out for the show, she goes, well, if you're going to be out of the show, then you're not well enough to be out with guests. So it wasn't like she was quarantined to her room, but she couldn't be like, she couldn't be normal. No. And she couldn't go eat with me in the restaurant. She couldn't go. Right. So we had to meet on the deck upstairs, outside. She could be outside. We had coffee and just like hung out talking for a little bit. And she's like, well, I should probably go back to my room and rest. So she did. And then I went and saw her show that night. She was obviously not in it, but I could hear her voice because the girl that her understudy doesn't sing. So they used Kylie's voice for the understudy who lip synced her. So I could hear my baby girl's voice at least singing the song.
Okay, so I'm very curious though, if this is a side note probably to your story, but could you tell she was lip syncing? I mean, obviously you knew, but
you know what? I told Kylie she was, because she had never done the part before.
Oh goodness. So she had a lip sync it for the first time.
Yeah. Kylie's never been sick. So she's never had to have her understudy do it. But she knew she got enough notice in the morning to know Kylie wasn't going to do it. So she had during the day to practice it. And obviously they've always practiced the understudy roles from time to time. But I told Kai, I said, you know what? If I didn't know your voice, I would think she was singing it.
Goodness.
She was good. She was really good. So, and that went for all the parts. Like she was also Jasmine and sang there's a part that she sings. And I was just like, yeah, it looks like she's singing it. But I know Kylie's voice. So that was fun. And then went back to the room, and then Kylie was able to come to the room again, and we ordered room service and we just hung out there. And then the next day was port day. It was when we got back to the port, and then she was able to go to New York with me for a little while before I got my flight.
So let's talk about how you navigated this. So
you know what? Like I said, I honestly didn't want Kylie to know that I was so sad. Like when she started crying, I would cry because she was crying, but I was trying to be strong and say, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with my throat, but I was trying to be strong and say, it's okay. Your health is the most important to me, and I want you to feel better.
Sure.
And it's okay. Like I can still enjoy this, however we have to navigate this, you know, but when I was by myself, I would cry. You know what I mean? I was just sitting in my room by myself at one point, just like sitting there going, the weather wasn't even that great for me to go like lay by the pool. You know what I mean? So I did a lot of walking around the deck. I did some gym time. I did some coffee time on the deck, but it wasn't like put your swimsuit on and go lay by the pool kind of weather. So there was times that I was just like, this is such a bummer that this is happening. Oh, thank you, sweetie. This is such a bummer that this is happening. And I would start to cry, but then I would snap myself out of it. Cause then I would go, okay, guess what? I got to see Kylie even for the 2 days that I thought it was going to be 5 days, but I got to see her for 2. We got to hang out. I've got to see 2 of her shows already. And then that third one was coming up. I'm not working. I'm not at work. I'm on a freaking cruise ship. I just walked around Bermuda that I've never seen before, so I had to I know we've said this many times, but I've had to flip the switch on what my expectation was and realize, okay, the only thing that is bringing me down from my expectation, the only thing that's bringing me down from, my how I feel about this is the expectation.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what brought me down because I had this expectation. In fact, when Matthew was helping me surprise her, I said, well, let me know what you have planned for Bermuda, because when we were in Italy, he had all these plans. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to go here. We're going to go there. I go, let me know if you're doing anything that costs money so I can give you money for it. And okay, I'll keep you all posted on that. Well, as it turns out, since she told Matthew and her other friend Dustin that she wasn't feeling that great, they go, okay, go see, let us know how you feel if we meet, so everything was everything was changed. Quote unquote ruined, because it was they're not even getting off on the ship with us now,
Wow.
So it was a different feeling altogether. So,
okay. So you're bringing up something for me that has to do with the subject that I was going to bring up today. So, so are you good with this?
I am.
We kind of turn. So what I think is interesting is that, our title is Living Your Best Life. And we are very much into changing your mindset, dealing, like, in other words, in this case, you said, okay, I got to flip the switch. And so if you listen to the one that we talk about disappointment, we really give a lot of different hints, and really all the way through all of our podcasts, we're constantly giving hints into, how can you deal with this? How can you deal with that? My question, and I don't have an answer for it, and it's interesting that I don't have a specific answer. I have ideas, but is, when does someone need therapy versus when does somebody need to just flip the switch? Does the question make sense? I mean, because in other words, I do think that there are sometimes, I mean, to be honest with you, I think everybody could benefit from therapy think that maybe, at some level.
Oh, for sure. But do you think maybe that the person that might need the therapy is the person that can't flip the switch?
Okay. And there you go. So then the question is, I do think that's the case. I think that there are folk that, that really struggle in the narrative that they have in their mind. They just can't, so we've talked a lot about our mindset and all of the, through all of our podcasts, there's always some kind of mindset issue. Sure. And it's often, hey, if you're telling yourself, one of the classic things I might say is, if you're telling yourself you're going to have a bad day, you're going to have a bad day. So why don't you just tell yourself you're going to have a good day?
Exactly.
And so that is like, that's something you can do. So then how do you know when someone can't just flip it versus when they're choosing not to flip it, or I guess you see what I'm saying? How does a person who's listening to us right now go, how come they can flip the switch? How come Valerie could be in this horrible thing and flip the switch, whereas I might, scream and yell and cry and go to my bed? And how can we make sure that person does not feel judged? And feel like I must be, incomplete.
There's got to be, wow, that's a really profound question, because in my mind, it's very interesting that you bring that up, because there's been a couple of people that have said, it's so easy for you. And I'm speaking specifically for me. I'm sure you've probably heard people say this to you, but I've heard people say to me, it's so easy for you. You make it sound like it's so easy to just not eat the quote unquote bad food. It's so easy to get up and go to the gym. But to that person, it's not easy,
right?
And in my mind, I'm just like, well, if that food's not good for you, then why would you eat it?
Right.
But that's so easy for me to say,
right?
And so unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say, I don't feel that way as some people do that struggle with that. And so,
yeah, because I'll give another one. You give the food one. I'm going to give one where I get up early. So I get up at pretty much, I could say I get up at 20 to 5 every day. Like is that a fair statement? I'm looking at my wife. Yeah.
She goes, I don't know, I'm sleeping.
But I get up every single day, and then there's other folk that will tell me, oh, I'm going to get up early, and then they can't, or they say they can't. And I don't judge them because they can't.
Sure.
But I don't I go, well, they say, how do you do it? And I just say, well, I just do it. It's my habit now. I can't imagine not.
I think that I'm sorry, and did I cut you off?
No.
Well, I'm just going to say, because I think that in those kind of situations where you say, how can you get up so early, when people at work, they'll say, I saw that you went to the gym today. How do you do that? I could never do that. Well, I think that is a very simple thing to change. Like, you really honestly could set your alarm clock and get yourself out of bed, not hit the snooze. That could happen. But if you're talking about somebody that might have an addiction, or somebody that, like, for example, the person that might say, you make it sound so easy, just don't eat that, or stop eating when you're full. You make it sound so easy. So that particular person, I can't relate to, and I do feel sorry for them, like in terms of like something like that, or maybe it be alcohol, or maybe it be, I agree with what you're saying. A lot of people say, I can't get up that early. Well, you can, you just don't. You put the alarm clock on, you turn it off, and you get yourself out of bed. You can do that. That is a very
tangible, practical
thing. Yeah, exactly.
Right. But it normally, this is the thing that's interesting. And I guess this is where maybe therapy comes in, is the reason why they can't do that very tangible, easy thing might be because of other things that are going on. And this is actually just like an addiction. It is manifestation of something else that's going on in their life, and they don't know. They don't know what's going on.
That's very true.
So, because even every addiction that I think of is nobody wants to be addicted. Nobody chooses it, and there are obviously some addictions which are addicting. I mean, nicotine.
Yeah.
I mean, in other words, it's like you're chemically addicted now. You have an issue that you have to break chemically. But beyond that, there's also just the feeling. I mean, if you talk to people that have I smoke a cigar every day. I love having that cigar in my hand. I love the smell.
And that's so true, because I hear so many people that have quit smoking cigarettes and they just don't know what to do with their hands anymore. And they give they have manipulatives to keep their hands busy.
So there is a thing about saying, there is one thing about, okay, there's the addiction, and then there's, because you have to break the habit. So if you've been doing any kind of addiction for any length of time, now there's one part of it of, okay, I got to break the addiction.
Yeah.
Then the second part of it is, why did you start the addiction in the first place?
Yeah.
And I don't know which one comes first. Maybe they'll still continue to study this, but the truth is that you probably got into your addiction due to a certain something going on in your life. Then it became a part of who you are, and then now you're manifesting it in that particular way. And I actually am a believer that everybody has an addiction. Everybody has some kind of addiction. Now, some of them are really, like, if you're an alcoholic, if you're a sexaholic, if you're a drug addict, if you do any of those kind of things, those are like the ones that everybody goes, ooh, you've got that addiction. Right. And then on the other hand, nobody thinks about the person who sits and watches Netflix for 12 hours on a Saturday. And that to me is an addiction, because they're just getting lost. Or the person who, any other kind of way of manifesting something that is really not healthy. Anything that we do,
if it's not,
controlled. Like if you're doing too much of it, it can be an addiction. It can be bad. And working out. I mean, people can work out like to an addictive point where it's no longer about health and fitness and enjoyment. It's just an addiction. And so all of those things are a manifestation of something that's going on in yourself. So maybe that's the answer to the question is
if it's to a fault, not just a, like
maybe the question is, go for it.
No, I was going to say, I do agree with you that I think therapy is beneficial for everyone at some point for whatever reason. But I do agree that if there's something in somebody's life that you can't just stop doing on your own, or if you can't flip the switch, maybe there's something else resonating inside that you those are the symptoms, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. I think that because in other words, somebody who's an alcoholic, it's obviously they do get to a point of loving alcohol. It's just the way it is.
But it started from something first.
Yeah, it started from something else, and often, it might just be the fact that you watch this with family. In other words, a lot of alcoholics are products of alcoholics. So in other words, this is how you deal with issues. Grandma, our grandma, I remember the story that I've been told was she was taught how to smoke to deal with anxiety. So, I mean, that's what she did. And then what's funny is, so she didn't go to it. She was taught how to do it. And then what was fascinating to me is how this woman smoked so much. And then the doctor said, hey, if you don't stop smoking, you're going to die. And she stopped.
She stopped cold turkey.
Yeah. And just was done. And that was that.
After 50 years.
Right. I mean, and so insane. What's interesting is in her case, to some degree, now I'm not saying that it never became a crutch for her anxiety, but it didn't start that way.
Sure.
She was just like, here, this is what you do.
Yeah.
And so, okay. But what's interesting about alcohol and other things like that is that normally what they're doing is it actually alts, it changes your feeling. And so whatever it is that you're going, you're covering it up with whatever this addiction is. It's funny
you said that, because when this whole thing that happened on the cruise and somebody, I forgot who I was texting and saying, oh my gosh, this is happening. Maybe it was Peter. I don't think it was Peter. Maybe it was Cole. Anyway, doesn't matter. I just remember.
Wait a minute. Let's find out. What time was it?
No, but it was funny because they're just like, well, you know what? You need to get yourself a margarita, and you need to. And you know what? The thing about myself is that is the last time. That is the last time. The last thing I would do when I'm in a situation where I feel like I'm needing to really process my thoughts.
Oh, right.
I don't like to. Like, oh, I need a drink. I'm more like, I want to drink because I'm in the party atmosphere or that kind of a mood. And the interesting thing was,
I see what you're saying. Yeah, like, you don't do it to make it feel.
I don't want to mask anything. I want to feel it. And so it's just funny because with that cruise, I did finally the very last night have a margarita because at that point we already knew what was going on with Kai. She didn't have COVID. I still could see her. She still could get off on New York with me because she wasn't sure if she was going to be able to if it was COVID. And we were going to have coffee and all that kind of stuff. And so that night I'm like, I'm getting a margarita because I was in like that mood, that happy mood. It wasn't like I need to, mask all the feelings that I'm having right now.
Right. Which, by the way, whoever did send you that text that might feel bad right now, they are.
I think it was more.
But they're just thinking. No, they're just saying something. It's kind of.
It wasn't bad. Like, oh, have a margarita, mask it. It was more like, well, you're on a ship. Go have yourself a drink and relax. Right. Go by the pool.
But it just didn't resonate with you.
Exactly.
Right. And I think what's interesting for the subject that I'm bringing up is I'm trying to get my MFT because I want to do therapy, but I do love life coaching, which has to do with living your best life. And it has to do with, but I do think that that's the whole reason why I'm doing therapy is because I do think that there are people who need something beyond, flip the switch or change the narrative. And even, there's something called, as I'm learning, a narrative therapy. And even in narrative therapy, the whole point of it is you really have to deal with what is that narrative that you're telling yourself that's kicking your butt and preventing you from making this right decision. Because the truth is that I'm picturing something in my mind and I'm showing this for people that are watching on YouTube. But what's interesting is that your core values and what you believe about yourself is going to affect whether you're going to be a victim of your circumstances or whether you're going to be the author of your circumstances. And so if that core belief is messed up, if there's something in your core belief about yourself, it's going to make you, first of all, think a certain way. And the think is going to give you a feeling, and the feeling is going to make you not want to do things. And then the next thing you know, you're going to basically self-sabotage.
Yes.
Whereas if you're authoring your thoughts and you're going, no, and you have a value, that belief that, no, this can be good, and et cetera, then all of a sudden you can produce really good results. But there are people who really struggle with that core belief and core value, and they can't, no, I don't like the word they can't, but without therapy, without someone else coming alongside them, without someone who's going to bring them, I mean, at least this was, honestly, I came to this conversation with you because I was interested to hear what you had to say, but I think it's interesting because, like you said, I think there's certain things for me that I just go, I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm able to flip the switch a lot of times. I mean, when I got the rejection notice for the internship, my first thought is, that sucks, and I don't like ever being rejected. Yeah. I don't care if I couldn't get it.
Even if you said I didn't want to go with you.
Yes, exactly. It's like, I want you to say I love you and you were great and you thought you were the greatest thing, and please, and then I'm going to go, nah, I can't do it. Yeah. But then they said it, and then it was literally within minutes. I just thought, well, I got one and I'm really grateful I got the one I got. Okay, I'm going to move on.
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of the people at work that heard my whole story with the, with
the cruise.
Yeah. There was a couple of them that the one girl goes, you're so good about that. You're so good about just making the best situation out of everything. You always have this attitude of, positivity and this, that, and the other. And she goes, I'm going to need you for, blah, blah, blah. I have this thing going on and I'm going to need your words. So I almost feel like people do search for therapy in different ways. Like they just need to have an ear and they need somebody to talk you through it, walk you through it, and again, somebody today, we were talking about a couple of things that happened to her this week, and same thing. And I started talking her through it and walking her through it and saying, well, this is, just giving her a couple little scenarios. And she's like, oh my gosh. She goes, I'm going to have to text you over the weekend. We're going to have to get together, and so it's true. Some people can't, and again, I don't like to say the word can't, but some people truly don't know how to just take it and be, like you just said, be your own author of it. And they let it overcome them. And
ultimately it's that core belief that they have that ultimately makes it so that they go, this is the lot in life that I have. And so really changing, and where did that core belief come from? Well, it comes from a number of different things. And so the idea of therapy is, let's address some of those things. I don't know that you necessarily always have to go back and fix everything. And there's a bunch of different therapies, and I'm not trying to choose which therapy you're supposed to do. But the fact of the matter is that at some level, we're a product of how we grew up.
Yeah.
And then we're a product of how we continue to grow. Because at 50 plus years old, it's not fair for me to say this is my dad's fault that I am the way
exactly. And that's the thing. And no. And I agree with you, because I think a lot of people do go back and say, well, I'm this way because of XYZ. And it's like, okay, but like you just said, like, okay, there's a point in your life where you have to take action for your own, doings, and just go, okay, I can't blame it on that forever. And if that's what you really want to truly quote unquote blame on, then you do need therapy to work it through. Yeah.
And here's the thing is that if you are, older, just an adult, if you're just, you can now choose to say, okay, I need to seek therapy. I need to figure this out. I don't have all the answers. I don't understand what's going on. And the fact of the matter is, you and I are a product of our folks, and I think our folks did a good job. I think they also did a bad job in certain areas, because they're not perfect. I look at how I raised our kids.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I go,
do you know how many times a day now I'm like, God, if I had only handled that one differently, and that was back then.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing that's so funny is I look back on a lot of our parenting, and I go, but our kids are good, aren't they?
I think they are.
and the thing is that, I mean, we have good kids, but they have their stuff. And you know why they have their stuff? Because of us.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but I think it's just, we're not perfect, but that's part of life, is growing through the stuff and learning that stuff and saying, okay, what is it that, how can I get to that point where I can see life in a different way, and taking action, whether that action be, okay, I'm going to flip the switch and all of a sudden I can, and I'm going to start telling myself that I can do these things. Because that's another thing I believe is, it's starting small. So, using that example of, I don't know if food is the best example, because I'm not a good example of food, but what I can say is when we are telling ourselves we're going to do something, especially, and we've mentioned this many times, especially if we make this grandiose thing of in January, hey, I'm going to lose 40 pounds by the end of the year. I think we should change the goal and say, I'm going to be healthier this year than I was last year, and then take very small steps toward that goal, rather than having a microwave approach of, I'm going to lose this weight, I'm going to get it.
And then by February, you're just like, eh.
Yeah, I hate the gym. I hate everybody. I love chips. And so, so it's like, I think what we have to do is we have to say, you know what, I'm going to take a walk around the block. Or, hey, if your goal is, I do want to wake up earlier. Well, then the first thing you got to do is you got to go to bed earlier. And then the second thing you got to do is you have to just get up that time, and just say you're going to do it, twice a week. Yeah. And then later 3 times a week or whatever. Sure. But the point is, don't.
Well, and you're not going to, like, if you're sleeping till 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning and you're like, well, I'm going to start getting up at 5. I mean, that's like, shoot for 7,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
Like you said, it's easier to do it in baby steps.
And, and then if you're really going, I really stuck, I've been stuck in things. I've had my own, vices. And I had to get help, major help.
I have never been stuck and never had a vice. So
you haven't.
I don't
You're
understand.
Perfect. Every single time. I have the Virgin Mary next to my bed and a picture of you. So I prayed to the gods.
I think that was actually a good conversation, and I'd like to come back to that about,
No, we're done. This is it.
No. No, because I think that a lot of people are afraid of therapy too. And so I've heard many people say, no, that's not for me. Like, I mean, you know that for sure.
Yeah.
And it may not be like but try it, if
I'm going to even go one step further. If you get a therapist and you don't like them, try a different one.
Absolutely.
It's like, don't blame therapy. Just think, this therapist and I didn't get along.
Exactly.
So I'm not trying to say find a therapist that tells you exactly what you want to hear, but try and find a therapist
you need to find one that you're comfortable with.
Yeah. Where you se lleve. ¿Cómo se dice? You get along.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, hey, That wasn't bad, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Flying off the cuff.
Flying off the cuff. Yeah, because all the other ones are so very organized. So
I know.
I will say this. You gave us a very long story of your cruise. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. No, we just know everything about it now. I'm going to journal it.
I didn't really tell you much. I told you about the whole part that she was sick and I couldn't see her show, but I got to hear her sing.
I actually thought it was great. I appreciate you sharing it.
No,
I knew it because we were texting, but I didn't know every single little detail. And,
yeah.
So
no,
anyway.
it was just I think that it was just important to say because it was once again a place of disappointment. And I think that we talked about this in another podcast. A lot of times disappointment is because of an expectation.
That's right.
And if you lower that expectation and just realize...
Or change it to hope. Change it to hope instead of expect. Like hope to me is great, but expectation is a resentment.
Exactly. And once I realized, okay, this isn't going as I expected it to go, I took that word out and just said, okay, you know what? I'm still here. I'm still... And
oh, that's a great way to do it. Take the word out. I love that. Yeah. That's so simple.
Yeah.
So, well, we're very glad you joined us. This is Living Your Best Life. I'm Benny. I am Benny. I'm sorry.
I'm Valerie.
I looked at the screen again. That's why they're laughing at me. And so we're glad you're with us. I am at Benny Gonzalez on Instagram. Would love for you to hear from you. Please send me a message. And you could even, if you want coaching, you could actually send and ask about that too. And you are?
I am Valerie at A Daily Dose of Cocoa, and I have gotten messages from you guys about this, and we did actually do a podcast on questions from you guys that you sent over to Instagram. So if you have any questions or you have a topic idea, feel free to shoot them our way, because that's always fun when we get to talk about what you guys want to hear. Yeah,
so please subscribe and like on YouTube and Spotify. Those are our main ones, right, Iggy? And so please do that. And it's really helpful for other people that perhaps connect. And we would love it. If you like this podcast, would you share it with your friends? That would be great. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Iggy.
Thank you, Iggy. All right, folks, make it a great week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.